Yeah. Jesus, you're my everything, yeah. My everything is you, Lord. Yeah. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Everybody say, how can I express my gratitude for all the many things you've done for me? Words are not enough, enough to say thank you. So Lord, you are my everything. You're my everything. How can I express my gratitude? How can I express my gratitude for all the many things you've Father, you done for me, yeah. Words are not enough to say thank you. So Lord, you are, you're my everything. See, I call you Jireh. You're my provider. I call you Eunice. You are my battle. I call you Rapha. Hey. You are my healer. Say, Lord, you are.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your location. Me man kram bia and then so akwaba eba yedwumedie so. Edwumade a yato ne den se BWF Solicitors Legal Hour eno so na yewo ene. Megidi se baby biara wo ho ye na se wo ho ye de na emeto nsa afrɛ se bra beka ye ho na edwumade a every Friday bia ye de ba eye emransem a ye bekyekire mu ene nsem a aka yen a o se ye hu bebi a ye ko nyina e wo mre mu no ɛnɛ nso mmerɛ no aso sɛ yɛde brɛ mo nti ka ho na frɛ wo nɔnko bi, frɛ w'adamfo bi, frɛ ɔdɔfoɔ bi sɛ mmerɛ no aso o, mmerɛ no aso. BWF Solicitors foɔ asa aka mo ho biom ɛde good news ɛde brɛ mo ɛwɔ mmerɛ asɛm mu nti no bra bɛka yɛn ho. ɛna ɛyɛ me anigye bebree, ɛyɛ me ahomsɛpɛ sɛ ɛyɛ ana nsɛnsɛm bi wɔ hɔ yɛde bɛto dwa a ɛnyɛ ne nyinaa na ebi a ɛfa wo ho, but nsɛm no bi nso wɔ ha wotumi ho sɛ wei deɛ ɛkɔ wo kukuo mu paa na sɛ woto ho anamo a ɛbɛdi aboa wo nti no ka ho na bɛka me ho na yɛntumi nkyerɛkyerɛ mu na yɛnsua biribi mfiri saa ɛnɛ topic a yɛde bɛba bɛto dwa ɛnkyɛ biara. Nyame adom wɔ me resource person yɛ nuabaa, yɛ sister penny, yɛ maame yɛfrɛ no lawyer Eunice Achampo ɛnɛ ɔno na yɛne ne ba bɛdi dwuma na nkyerɛkyerɛ a yɛde brɛ mu no megye di sɛ w'ani bɛgye ho papapapapapa. Bɔ mmɔden a na ka me ho ɛnɛ nso Friday, Nyame adom na adom yɛn ama yɛasa ɛɛba mo akwan na menim sɛ baabi a wowɔ bia ɛmbia na wowɔ adwuma mu, ɛmbia na wowɔ efie, ɛmbia na woyɛ biribi, ɛmbia na woatu kwan, baabi biara a wowɔ biara no just spare me your next hour no na yɛmfa nsuasua adeɛ wei ɛbɛboa yɛn. Mmerɛ no kɔ nti mema me kasa ɛnkyɛ bebree ɛnkɔ anim bebree. Ɛnɛ yɛbɛbisa ayɛm biara medi kan ama lawyer Eunice de nkyia mu ohwam mu ɔdɛ mu ɔhwam papaapa ɛde amrɛ tiefoɔ na ahwɛfoɔ na afɛdeɛ sɛ update bi wɔ hɔ a ɛyɛ na home office for ade kyi na ade sɛ nyinaa yɛ na ɔmo keka ɔmo ho sɛ update bi ɛni hɔ nso deɛ a na yɛde yɛn topic na abɛtu dwa na afɛdeɛ yɛakyerɛkyerɛ mu na mmom ansa na ɔbɛba no mesrɛ mu anidie mu wonya baa so a bɔ mmɔden na share program no frɛ obi share, like the page na afei nso comment no nso hia yɛn papaapa ɛyɛ na mbɛtetɛ na wɔhwɛ ne ketewa bi kɛkɛ na wɔnkɔ comment at least bisa question ka biribi ne ɛho sɛ yɛde nipa ɛna ɛyɛ adwuma no nti mesrɛ mo anidie mu mon comment na ɛmboa na afei like the page ɛna afei nso wokɔ yɛn YouTube channel no nso abɔ mmɔden na subscribe the page no sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a ɛbere bia ɛbɛbɛ bia no wobɛnya ho sɛ woabɛhwɛ bi na wotumi wo nso so woanya wo kyɛfa wo mu nti lawyer Eunice mɛsa ato nsa afrɛ ama wo good morning mema akɔ aba ɛbɛyɛ dwumadie so mesrɛ wo ho te sɛn na ɛnɛ Friday ahoɔden aba sɛ ne deɛ ɛyɛ nhyira nko a abrabɔ mu te sɛ wo ho te sɛn na mede akɔnya yi ma wo na wasa kyerɛkyerɛ tiefoɔ na ahwɛfoɔ na afei deɛ saa update bi wɔ hɔ a wode ato dwa de ama yɛn ɛkɔbɔkɔ deɛ
Nyame adom ma yɛ pacho na wo so
adom nko a na anɔpɛ deɛ energy no aba kama nti no itu out.
Beda ase bebree ma me enhyia yɛtiefoɔ ne ahwɛfoɔ a mohwɛ yɛn endede and that being the 25th of April yɛda Nyame ase. I mean months ne etutu kɔ saa I can't even believe that we've almost come to an end to April. Nti I know say Nyame adom okra mu nyinaa wɔ asomdwe mu. I hope say mo nso saa no nso now that the kids have also gone back to school no mo celebrate good Easter nso so nti me da Nyame ase at least and the day mo nso mo abɛka yɛn nsa. Usually as we do every week yɛma a bit of an update in regards to immigration rules no Debbie biara omo sisemu and usually say home office for EDBB back to say statement of changes it means that they are making a few tweaks to the immigration rules just to make sure say inyama eda nakwemu. I know that in March of 2025, just this March gone, no, almost the new statement of changes by but we're going to briefly look at one of the changes are almost there by which comes into force and as I has already come into force. And see when it comes to EU nationals and as family members of EU nationals now almost at a chrome ha UK chrome ha yin na yin say we have the EU settlement scheme. Government na aka say we EU ni and say we EU ebusuani dia you will have to apply onto the EU settlement scheme. Senya also benya asetna wo krom ha. And they have said say from the 9th of April which was 3 weeks ago, and they say when it comes to Obia, Abia, say Abia we application under this EU settlement scheme. Now, let's say for instance, or permanent residence on the old rules into previous to Appendix EU, no. Na year what BBI friend immigration EA regulations 2006 and 2016. Ɛno no saa no na ɛbɔ EU for any for ho ban. But if prior to obviously this EU settlement scheme, na or saa permanent residence and say residence card no, then they are looking to see say when you are making this application, na ebia under suitability requirements no, ebia wa wedding chrono be they've imprisoned you for a certain period of time. And now Crampo say you were given a suspended sentence and you were given maybe a fine or something in regards to the fact say you were convicted of that offense now committed. In regards to your suitability requirements under Appendix E, things that may be considered will be somebody, for instance, who has a deportation order, somebody who has been excluded from the UK because of more character and some more behavior. And now Crampo say, Abia, we transfer be a application be so, and that's one of false documentation be a application be so. All of those come under the suitability requirements under Appendix EU. Into if for some reason or the other no because of the fact say home office for no and who say you don't meet the suitability requirements but you already have permanent residence and answer you already have residence card based on the old rules and they have every right to refuse the application under Appendix EU, regardless of the fact, say, na or sa permanent residence. It's very important to know, say if, for instance, Abia Ukita sa permanent residence on the old rules, because a lot of people still na Adrian say because Omukita sa permanent residence, no, and when he say Ombeye sa a EU settlement scheme, no if you do have some form of permanent residence now so yes I EU settlement scheme na yeah kana then you should know say it could be hindered if for instance your suitability requirements not under Appendix EU. And of course, those rules came into effect from the 9th of April this month here. It is very important to take note of these things because home office for no some refuse to it means say unia sitina into regardless of the permanent residence that you have you would not have any means of saying say oh asitina ewo krom ha because old rules no any hobby new rules na yeah kano under Appendix EU nti no no na ebo EU for any for ho ban nti se o amfa sa indefinite leave to remain no amfa ma wo under Appendix EU dia then it means that it's you starting all over again because of the fact say you don't meet sa suitability requirements now or more air no. So it's very important to take note of that as well. And as we are always saying in regards to your e-visas, patcho bebree nkurɔfoɔ mbɔ ho dawuro na obi biara a ɔntumi nyɛɛ saa e-visa no na watumi ayɛ ne e-visa because ɛbɛhia paa sɛ at least by the 1st of June 2025 obi biara a ɔte UK a ɔnkita British passport biara no ɛbɛtumi akyerɛ sɛ ɔwɔ saa asetena no ɛwɔ kurom ha on their online UKVI account. Nti sɛ wonte e-visa ho deɛ a then patro bɔ mmɔden ara sɛ at least wobɛtumi ahu yɛn anaa koraa mpo sɛ wobɛtumi ebisa home office for no ɔmo direct line a wobɛtumi afrɛ ɔmo a wobɛtumi ebisa ɔmo nsɛm ɛfa e-visa no ho because they've made sure say nkurɔfoɔ ɛbɛte ɛho nka ansa na saa 1st of June 2025, especially nkurɔfoɔ na ɔmo te outside anaasɛ ɔmo etu kwan akyɛ no patro bɔ ɔmo nyinaa de ro na ɔmo nso ɔmo nte sɛnea ɔmo ba a ɛnkɔyɛ biribi foforɔ ɛwɔ airport nti as much as possible no yɛn nyinaa yɛntumi ɛnyɛ by the 1st of June. Like I said previously, no, there are currently sanctions in regards to and also saa no nso nti sɛ woba ebi a wofiri amano ne ɛba na wonkura wo e-visa nso so a it can delay you for a long period of time and as much as possible no say unim obi okita indefinite especially any biometric card so I want a passport anymore and the mamu so biometric card so crampo some more indefinite usually it will have an expiry date into so sign so they will have to do an e-visa into as much as possible no mombo a who de runa who say deadline na your 1st June 2025. It's a major updates no aha na yame adoma na to me actually other things as well in regards to your topic no.
Yeah, that's it. Now, yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, mommy, beside just one question per based on
Yeah.
say you you can say indefinite na there. Say you can say we independent. Sorry,
Yeah.
dependent. You national. So now nyame amadom na wanya wo indefinite na kyerɛ sɛ wabɛdi wo ho na mbia na ma divorce so nipa kɔ ne ne mbia mo ware yɛ a wobɛnya wo indefinite ya nti na mbia biribi esi ama wa divorce so a do they still count you and I say recognize you still sɛ woyɛ you na family member na sɛ wonya wo indefinite di a na woefi you foɔ no ase ama sɛ sɛ wabɛdi wo ho a na wabɛka immigration na sɛ UK deɛ no ase ɛhɔ no nkyekyɛmu bi wɔ hɔ nom ana.
Yeah, in terms of obia na first ebia no ye EU ebuseni nse ebia na we kun anasa yere na wetumi anya indefinite no based on appendix EU and I said previously no sa immigration regulations 2016 and I said 2006 no still now because we are sitting no from the EU route no so to me yes our EU settlement scheme into because of course previously ebia na waware EU ni sisi ade won ware ni biom ebia time na wodin ya wo permanent residence no now that's so worry but sisi ama ye divorce only sa EU ni panel ne bibia biom into why ye divorce bibia ni ho biom still na because of the fact say was sitting no omode ma under the EU settlement scheme ninti so call back now yes our EU settlement scheme application no because was sitting no was derived from
From
uh,
the
yes from that EU regulations and also from that EU
uh,
spouse and as a EU national into so oh yeah sa EU settlement
now
scheme
settle.
application now yeah sa indefinite leave to remain and yes sir and
Mm,
yeah unfortunately we indefinite and as a permanent residence now we want to
enye.
me I say as it's now dating a chrome high you would have to
Sɛ wonya
definitely
wo indefinite ne deɛ a wonya wo indefinite a ebia nipa ko no nso ni hɔ bio ma are you still under EU ɛno na me ho wonya wo indefinite yi wayɛ wo
yes
EU
yes
settlement
yes
na wan
yes
wi
yes
you are
yes
still under
yes
okay
yes
yo la Eunice yɛbɛda ase tiefoɔ ɛnea wobɛsɛ mo sɛmpa ɛyɛ a na yɛfeel sɛ o menya me indefinite na kyerɛ sɛ me kunu anaa me yere na mete me ho frɛ no mene ni asɛm biom menye EU ni bio ɛna ɛne ɛka sɛ woda so wo nsa da so wɔ n'enum woyɛ dɛ bia ɔne n'agya ɔne ne hwee yɛ but EU no ɛda so ɛda wo so nti ɛyɛ a na yɛnhwɛ ne yie na ɛyɛ a ntɔkwa nketenkete na yɛne yɛ kunu no mu ne yɛyere no ɛko because of EU hwanhwan no yɛn settle na yɛnim daakye asɛm until sɛ wobɛfi ɔmo ase na wobɛkɔ akɔyɛ British citizen deɛ woda so ɛwɔ EU mogya no da so o mo na menka ne saa all right then etiefoɔ no ahwɛfoɔ mɛda mo ase sɛ mo share program no na mo kɔ mo anim na mo like page no nyame nhyira mo Auntie Helena meda wo ase papa Auntie Helena a very special good morning to you baby biara wo o see Lady Manyeti and lawyer Eunice the Lord bless you and favor you greatly. We are saying thank you for your community program. Thank you, Lord, for the beautiful day. And beautiful. And Najma Michiawo, Tilly, Michiawo, Michicha, Obibiara, Waba Humano, so Nana, Etua Hene, Michiao, Ezekiel Johnson, Ezekiel no Hewadi, and Ezekiel Cafe Aman no hit this or my attend. I believe you are doing great wherever you are. Eyabako nim no call into Mofanchen, Mamon ko baby. Just take and stay with us. And a topic I want no emotion man kasa. Esan say, and you must some about form kakra,Ncrofo bebree, and net nan say just this year,Ncrofo afrefra, or more paid you managers and Crofo you must some ewo form kakra. Ain't no, ye share me one or more so more person more how amo who can for ebe come who nanka eja me not na edia sumjaba say ja Bible na kase ba ko fortna ya. Enti na ya na mo mienu tim na mo nkeka mo ho hia eboa ema abrabo ne kɔ enim enti wo yɛ dan a wo hia wo ho kafoɔ kunu o yire o mpena o sɛne ɛte bia wo hia wo ho kafoɔ embia no no bebi ɔno wɔ no ho kafoɔ ne mbia ɔwɔ amanone enti no opɛ kwan bia so sɛ ọba bɛka ho wɔ UK abɔnten so sɛ ne ɛbɛyɛ abrabɔ no mobɛbɔ ne yie mobɛbɔ no mu mienu na makɔ mo anim na mmom ɛyɛ na ɛtɔ de bia in some kitten bi haye adwumasem sikasem baby ayedem and any just say there are so many factors that come into place eba ne say opese wonkofa ohukafo ebeka enti ene no titiro no yebeka yesikasem because yenim say wo krom ha nko ana opese okofa ohukafo ba or say we need that sike bi so anase sike bi ebata wo ho anase sika kakra bi etwentwe wo ho ansa na aban no ejina saa sikasem no so no aka say yo ampa ohukafo no beka wo ho a mubetumi akomunim ense say ohukafo no beba na odo na ni beka akoto aban so nti no aban na ayesa nhihye na abrabọ no nso a yɛbɔ no nso no obi bɛ sɛ yɛmbɔ ne sana saa abrabọ no eto de bi a etumi hwew abrabọ no wowe no no so hwew wowe abrabọ no so hwew na kyerɛ sɛ ebi wɔ hɔ ana ho kyerɛ kakra bi wɔ baabi embia na adwuma a woyɛ sika aban de atwa to wɔ no wode na enso wode na no sɛ wokɔba na wode hwɛ wo ho kakra na ndwuma nso bebre wɔ hɔ a wonim sɛ woyɛ adwuma nso ne aban na twa to wɔ no embia na wode no enso saa wode na no sɛ wo ne obi ani competition nti kakra a wonya na do sonson wo ho na you are okay, you are content with that na mmom watwea entwe wapema empem nti wo pese okofa wo kafo edbeka nti na yen question a yere ba betu ye maame lawyer Eunice nim ne se metumi akofa me ho kafo aba UK ha abra me sikasem aban atwa to o se yenya sika bi edu baabi ansa na ebetumi ato saa na mo no me sikasem no endu sa eye tia eye short eye small eye kuku eye fa eye chese sika no entumi endu sika na aban etwa to ho no eye 29000 you see threshold na chese ono we twa to ho won we twa no trash no e hodu na chese eda ho ontumi mpem na oye adwuma no so sika ne nso sa nti me kan ne protocol mu a can I bring my spouse to the UK if my income is below the financial threshold of 29,000 per annum. Let's just say, afino or senka utumenya 29,000. And so unya. A lot of companies, a lot of employees, and a war between 18 and 24. Do na 18 and 24. Nanse na say eya ko 26 kakra na ebimunya 26. Na 29 ni twano eya na eye den kakra. Nenti no ye na ye behwe sa financial requirement na UK immigration and a home office etwa to say so pese okofa ho kafo ba na o se wonya sa 29,000 per annum no ene e behwela Eunice se misika enso sa sika menya enso sa na etre se me de mentumi nkofa me ho kafo emba na enti me first question e ba behwe the financial requirement a ye wo ewo UK aha yedi edi dwuma financial requirement a yedi di dwuma no eno na ye ba behwe ho nti me first question maybe salary Eunice aban ne say 29,000 na 29,000 yen hwe there are so many sources of income a wobɛnya. Ebi ne sɛ woyɛ adwuma na etua wo ka. Ebi no nso ɛyɛ a na obi tumi kyɛ wo sika. Ɔno deɛ wayɛ ne ho sɛ afe bi anaa bosom bi a ɔbɛkyɛ wo sika kakra. Woyɛ n'adamfo, woyɛ ne mpena, woyɛ ne biribi o kakra na ɔde ato wo mu. Anaasɛ wowɔ obi koraa nso a adɔyɛ nti no, wokaeɛ a ko me dɔ, na watwa 100 atom, na watwa 50 atom, na kyerɛ sɛ ɔno deɛ regular bi a ɔkyɛ wo sika. Nti ne nyinaa nso akɔyɛ wo source of what? Income anaa menka ne sɛ. Nti yɛnhwɛ sources of income a ɛtumi aban no consider sɛ wopɛ sɛ wo meet financial requirement no under the appendix FM family route no so. Nti no yɛnhwɛ lawyer Eunice. Ɛnɛ yɛbɛka sikasɛm.
I am that's my team. When it comes to financial requirements, dear, I believe that obi biara or sa family roots no so whether you are here in the UK and I say after na wokofa area and say ukunu no you will know say sa financial requirements no as of last year April 11th no and almost can say almost they back 29,000 from 18,600 to 29,000, more than double. I mean, it's one of those things that I say, why did they do that? But of course, now yes, they were advised by the MRI advisory team say because of skilled workers normal ban the fact say skilled workers normal ban no ebia or salary normal general and sheda and yet into increase salary levels for skilled workers, and then they thought okay, if they are increasing that of skilled workers and they say to me their factor in regards to unconform person kuna some yere bounce so. And so I know say when it comes to families, like you are saying, maybe will be pay grandpa or general a year, the gross pay, not even after tax, the gross pay before tax, no. And so sir 29,000 pounds now more no. It is more like maybe 26,000 thereabouts. And see, it's very difficult for a lot of families to meet that threshold. And see, and then we're just going to look at other sources of income that can be used in terms of us meeting the financial requirements. At least say but what's name say okay, this is how I can go about it, and then we look at the way forward. In terms of question I will be saying, when it comes to the sources of income, and I say different categories of income, I'm to me, I share home office for Nadia, almost immigration rules, and almost also more guidance. But under the immigration rules, no, especially under Appendix FM, who say so many financial requirements now, they'll categorize it into certain categories, saying at least who senya wobɛtumi emit saa 29,000 gross annual salary and as a gross annual income a year. Home office no, they've termed it as minimum income for the purposes of this application. In terms of the home office guidance and I say they are almost share and no making a decision. No, there are 5 different sources of income. And so you have employment income, and for employment income, no, there's 2 different types of employment income, or salaried income and non-salaried income for employment. And then you also have OBI, for instance, Onye Juma. So they have non-employment income. And see, non-employment income, ebetumi ayɛ biribi te sɛ rent a wogye from wo dan. Ebetumi ayɛ te sɛ investments a wowɔ. Ebetumi ayɛ biribi te sɛ dividends a wonya ebi a watɔ shares bi wɔ company bi mu nti you are getting dividends from that. Ebetumi koraa mpo ayɛ te sɛ wo maternity allowance, because that is also considered
to be a non-employment income. And so it can be different forms of other income that you haven't worked but you are receiving. Even interest, grandpa or savings no so a um income on to me I share as bibia unya and as a woje. And so those are non-employment income sources. And yes, sounds so bibi to say self-employment. Into self-employment, obia okita ono ankasa n'edwuma. Into when it comes to obia ebia nyanka ne say ye hairdresser. N'edwuma na oye as a hairdresser no, or the bibi kakra. Into after that period, at least of 12 months, no obetumi aka say waji bibi kakra. And then you also have fourthly somebody who is collecting pensions into ABA, which I juma or started say oh occupational pension. And also our private pension. So they will consider both your occupational pension and your private pension as well. And then fifthly, more cash savings. Into ABA for one reason or the other. ABA will seek no ensure that enso. But cash savings are ubetumi aka say bro ABA 16,000 because cash savings no so there's a threshold. It has to be 16,000 or more. Into and no so that can be considered in terms of your application towards meeting the financial requirement. And so when we talk about sources of income, no dear, we are going to obviously break them down and see how that can be considered because maboboso, and there are some that can be combined and there are some untumin combine it into at least say share in more detail na yehu dia yebetumi combine any dia yentumi combine na yetumi ehu the way forward in terms of the different categories of income na home office akase on way to me ashre in terms of sa 29,000 threshold na omo.
Yo, la Eunice, ebedas, nature said there are other means, other sources are obey to me, and the account na what to me who say a regular kwana to say example of the saloon say there. We jumam na was saloon kakra na say oh to make a share obi emma wo baby like nanny work and sheda no sheda nya work but oh yeah now so no nya a bit of income kakra every month wobɛtumi aboaboa ne nyinaa no de aka wo main salary no ho na wode akɔyɛ ameti saa 2029 na ɔmotwe mu deɛ Eunice ebi wɔ mu o ebi wɔ mu ankasa ne kyerɛ sɛ saa 29 no you should be earning roughly gross na ankasa no bɛyɛ 2,500 anaasɛ 2,006 na yɛtetetete nneɛma a abɛka bɛyɛ 2,004 biribi saa na ɔsɛ ɛni na 2004 nkurɔfo bebree dwuma ɛboro saa deɛ ɛneɛ I will say that but majority ɛna ɛgye less than 2,400 no majority ɛneɛ minim paa nti no Eunice yɛbɛda ase wɔ hɔ sɛ wakyerɛ sɛ akyea nso mbu yɛ nti no there are other means a wobɛtumi ɛde aka ho anaa sika no wode bɛka ho na ɛtumi akɔ anim kakra ɛde ama wo. Enti no see I can say afe me pese me yes application with will my and also with the income I receive from my employment in the last 6 months and no na say me use and also or say me use the whole year sika and I say e no say me yes application and be cry na sa last 6 months and she dem do and I no e den na or say me ye
Nti sɛ share their home office for normal guidance no ɛka ɛfa the 6 month salary usually under your immigration rules no they would state clearly under Appendix FM SE ne say so provided with 6 months pay slip and with 6 months bank statements ɛkyerɛ sɛ oh Jessica no free with for no. But when we look at their guidance specifically in India, they've categorized it such that also OJ employment sika, whether it is salaried or non-salaried. Nti usually salary employment ɛyɛ sɛ ebi a wogye sika efiri wɔ employer, saa sika no it is at the same amount every month. So for instance, wowɔ permanent job ɛwɔ baabi nti wo adwuma no a woyɛ no ɔmo tua wo fixed amount nti ebi a sɛ ɔmo tua £2,000 a month a ɔmo tua wo saa £2,000 every month akɔsi end of the year. So you can't non-salaried employment. This could be in more 0 hour employment. So and that's in more yes shift juma in almost a part-time juma so can fall under this non-salaried employment uh income no. Into usually when we say non-salaried employment now, it means say ebia will sika na oji at the end of every month. No, it is not fixed. Into ebia it changes from month to month, but at least you know say say juma no is permanent into a while and hour. Into under the Home Office guidance, Omaka say you should be able to show say saa adwuma no a woyɛ no wawɔ hɔ for at least 6 months before a wobɛyɛ saa application no, because someone to me yes some calculations to see will gross annual salary for the year and whether that gross no will be able to meet that 29,000 that's almost no. Into at least almost can say you have to work for one whole year, but almost can say at least so wait to me in 6 months pay slip to show say what was that edumano for that period of 6 months there to me ashare no. And there might be cases where for instance ebia nipa krono after na wasati eduma no on share that in her for that period of time. So if you are looking at the fact say you haven't been in that employment for some time there, usually they will consider other categories of your income. And an example was the fact say ebia na wo ye juma before I will join a juma we there or consider wo 12 months pay slips from that previous ejuma no ansa na wo be share with ejuma we. At least so to me actually almost a 12-month period now when it's other company then they can say you can combine with previous employment with this current employment say to me na at least calculate say will gross pay ɛbɛyɛ saa 29,000 na ɔmo hwehwɛ na ɔmo ahwɛ ɛno nso. But sɛ ebia na wonyɛ adwuma koraa ɛna afei na wahyɛ aseɛ sɛ woyɛ adwuma deɛ and the expectation ɛyɛ sɛ you'll be able to work with the company for at least 6 months ansa na wode application no ɛbɛtum. It is very important because obviously there are different ways that they can categorize it, but as much as possible ɔmo pɛ sɛ wotumi kyerɛ sɛ wo ne company no ayɛ adwuma for that 6 month period in order to calculate say wobɛtumi emit saa 29,000 na ɔmo ɛhwehwɛ. That is that in terms of salaried and I say non-salaried employment because of course obi a okita fixed rate there. So or the 2,000 a year, say it is 24,000 on meets our requirements, But say non-salaried na to say nipa krono ewo part-time ejuma be a one or two different jobs na or combining the 2 or 3 different jobs from the
Yeah.
different employers there. Be a omo yes our calculation na obetumi emit sa 29,000 year gross annual salary na omo no into of course when you speak to a lawyer na say o person yes application na lawyer no ebe hu senya omo be yes calculation also amount.
Okay. Wow. And yeah, senior woka no la Eunice. Yeah, memfa ne say woka non salaried employment no. And
Yes.
amadwena koba self-employed for MBA na we are self-employed. na afei nso no woyɛ employee nso wɔ baabi. Enti ɛba ne saa no a, wobɛtumi de wo self employed sika no a wonya no, wobɛtumi de ɛno nso aka wo employed wei no salary no, wobɛtumi de aka ho. Na ɔn sɛ self employed na ɛtɔ da bi a nkurɔfoɔ ɔmo ngye fixed rate.
Mm.
Na ɔmo gye sika no a, ebi mo na wakɔgye cash, ebi wɔ a na like ɛyɛ choppy, but wobɛtumi de ne nyinaa aka ho saa ama no ayɛ yie anaa mpatwɔ.
Okay, so let's look at self-employment income. Until let's say ebia miankasa no me a security officer will baby. Me
Mm,
j me income every ebia company na me say minimum a security no.
mm,
Nti no sa no say me clock in say ebia me 10 hours this
ah,
week. Me 50 hours this week. Answer no wait to America because it depends on the number of hours na my no. Answer
that's
no wait to America.
mm,
So obisa no or you're self-employed. And usually with self-employment, no, there are requirements in terms of documentation. I'm here to show say empower you're self-employed. In the
mm,
first of all, be all your self-employed no has to register with HMRC or
that's
mobile or UTR number. And then you also have to do your self-assessment. Into most times obi anim say so no kasa na ɛyɛ self-assessments there. It is from the 6th of April to the 5th of April for each year.
mm,
And the deadline, the last deadline to do it will be the 31st of January. Ebimu yɛ no June, ebimu so yɛ no in January. But as much as possible, no, the deadline no is 31st January. So we previous year self-assessment no into let's say ebia yabewura 2025. Well, self-assessment no for 2023, 2024 no will have to be filed latest by 31st of January 2025. In no Sano, because you have filed that when himself when your self-assessment are extra or income and any tax are obviously when it comes to self-assessment so there's a certain threshold that you have to be able to meet answer normal tax so but almost share with self-assessment almost share the fact say na say with your tax into which you with tax or account statement from our accountants a big business into uh
mm,
as much as we are talking about a security officer one casa our own business until you have to file an accountant's report and answer bisa and because you're also collecting VAT, you're also stressed while register to take VAT as well.
mm,
Into let's give the example again of me a security officer, I'm a file me tax. Me a security officer, but me sound so juma emma ebia Tesco into me a supervisor and as me a manager at Tesco. I am employed by them on a specific basis. Wohwɛ home office guidance na
mhm,
obi a ɔyɛ adwuma wɔ Tesco anaasɛ obi a ɔreyɛ adwuma whether salaried or non-salaried no
mm,
ɔntumi ncombine ne sika no a onya from self-employment no to sika no a onya from salaried or non-salaried employment.
mhm,
Unfortunately, they cannot combine it. Almost share self-employment as a stand-alone
mm,
category. Into so also you're self-employed there, then
mm,
they are considering your income for that 12-month period. Into they expect say you will be able to show the income you have received over that 12-month period. And
mm,
so that 12-month period no extra will gross income now we are you know is at 29,000 pounds now or more no
mhm,
into most times we your self-assessments are you know the income you received the profits that you have and all of that into at least no income now when you know it has to show say at least to me emit is at 29,000 pounds now or more no it
mm,
cannot be combined with ABR salaried employments now oh no and I say investments cash savings and BB it cannot be combined whatsoever. It is a standalone on itself. Into so also you're self-employed there, and you should be able to meet it outright with just for self-employed income now. Mm, yeah.
Oh, so now some way and the answer and you're fine because me ye juma with Tesco. Be na me ye 20 hours and hours or more me ye wo hono. Sika no enoso nti me anso me self employed kakra but I don't do much I was self employed nbi a juma me ye ne ade no me annual income self employed nbi kra na ye be 12,000 na 15,000. Nti anu sa no na che say I can't combine the two. Saa na home office yi ka no.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
combine
yeah.
self-employed any oh, ɔmo yɛ saa. So but nti sɛ mentumi combine self-employed no. Memfa ne sɛ wei no, can I combine yɛka ne sɛ the word I'm looking for no. Ɛyɛ edwuma a like ɛno ɛnyɛ employment edwuma.
Okay.
Non-employment edwuma. Ɛnyɛ edwuma but mbia meka non-employment na nkurɔfoɔ nyɛ sika ɛfiri one or
Yeah.
two places a ɛnhyɛ da ɛnyɛ adwuma ɛno nso Eunice.
Yes. Nti to say senya wo ka no non-employment no me di kind my examples a bit to me aye juma me say juma meant maternity pay a
Okay.
OJ in terms of the fact that wow into wo fie and maternity allowance na OJ no is not obviously much but it can also be seen as non-employment income.
Uh-huh.
Ebi si obi ebi a watɔ ne dan ɔde ma rent na
Okay.
ɔgye efiri ɛdan no mu ɛyɛ
Ah,
non-employment income.
okay.
Anaasɛ ebi a watotɔ shares anaasɛ wayɛ investment bi
Oh,
ɛwɔ
interest.
company bi mu, yes, nti
Mm,
that one you are getting dividends from
mm,
saa wo investment na wayɛ no, nti ɛno nso saa no nso ɛyɛ non-employment income.
wow.
Anaasɛ mpo sɛ ɔwɔ maintenance grant ebi mu nya
Mm,
scholarship.
kakra.
It's no nyɛ loan, it's free money.
Mm,
Into a maintenance grants and answer scholarship a wenya, it
mm,
also comes under non-employment income. And I
mm,
say a bank, most people have ISA. Interest now when you ISA and also is also considered income. Into that interest now when you know and
mhm,
as the income now when you're from ISA no, it is
mm,
also considered to be non-employment
mm.
income. And so there are different examples, but I'm just giving a few of non-employment income. And
Okay.
also say, oh well, no, you can combine it with your salaried employment. And see, that's the good thing about non-employment, no. So if you have non-employment, you can show say at least for that um let's say 6 month period now, I mean 12-month period, you are earning that amount of money into ABR because you are getting rents from property, for that 12-month period, you have been able to show say you are getting ABR that amount of money, which is
Mm,
probably let's say £3,000 from rent house, into you will definitely be able to meet the 29,000 threshold. And I said because you are looking at other combinations of non-employment income into apart from rents now no osan so ɛwɔ interest osan so ɛwɔ
mm,
other income which is not part of your employment income and
mhm,
nyinaa no they will look at it from a 12-month period. They want to see, say, as much as possible, over
mhm,
a 12-month period, So,
mhm.
ehwɛ sika na wogye na, you
Mhm,
are able to show, say, over to me, in 29,000 per
mm,
annum for that um period of time, which is the 12 month now,
mm,
almost. So it's very important to show, say, so
mm,
non-employment income there, and there you are able to show by way of your bank statements, say your
mm,
investments are most times they will bring you a monthly statement and I say a yearly statement.
mm.
as much as possible no so to me say over that 12-month period na all your investment and I say nkrofo ni almost your rent and I say almost your e bibi e kano efa wo dia wo you know dia then of course the home office are ready to accept that as income unya outside of employment omo betumi aka say because of that income we nti ye betumi ama wo IS application no based on the fact that what share yourself obetumi meet this 29,000 threshold na yeah hwehwɛ no it is also important to show non-employment income over a 12-month period and sana omo etumi a consider.
Mm. Wow, sɛ wogye sika no anaa wobɛgye ɛno no ayɛ me nyaa kakra. Sɛ wo show all this evidence 12 months no sɛ bi a sika no ɛba ɛbɛgu mu nti no woboaboa no a ne baby a all the sources ne nyinaa na at the end of the year no you might get that 29,000. Anaasɛ woba abɛgye saa investments ne bi wɔ hɔ a ɛka maybe 6 months 6 months anaasɛ annually. Nti wonim sɛ at the end of the financial year investment bi a menya no menya sika bɛyɛ 10,000 wɔ akyire anaa 2,000 anaa 3,000. Saa ɔhɔ no I don't know if you really understand me but
Mm.
wobɛgye wahu anaasɛ wogye ne deɛ continue nsi kakra na bi wei ɛfiri ha kakra bɛtɔm fifi ha kakra bɛtɔm nti wonim sɛ ɛyɛ regular within 12 months de a yɛde bɔ mu a mɛtumi anya saa threshold na a ɛbɛ calculate to 29,000 no anaasɛ afei na woba abɛgye nti sɛ wode kyerɛ sɛ wowɔ saa investment sika yi anaasɛ wayɛ wei nti at the end of the financial year mɛtumi agye saa sika no ɔhɔ no difference bi wɔ hɔ ana.
Yes. And see, the difference is that when it comes to ABA, OBA wire investments no, Oma Kachen say, we will not give you dividends until 5 years when your investment has matured.
Yes.
Obisa no, on to me fa and no interest because obeje sa sika way later on in the future nancy obe meet sa financial requirements. Unfortunately, that will not suffice. Nti ɛsɛ ɔmo tumi kyerɛ sɛ ebia investment na mayɛ no sisi a ɔmo tua me this amount of money every month. Nti sɛ meyɛ investment ɛna ɔmo ma me dividends of let's say £500 a month a ɛsɛ metumi kyerɛ ɛwɔ my bank statement no so say this is being paid into my accounts because of dividends na ɔmo sɛ ɔmo betua me ka no. And
Mm,
as a rent now omutua no omutua eto sa account way minya £3,000 every month from rent sales na major no. And I say minya maintenance grants omo ama me sa grants no at least £5,000 into my account no into sa sika way no ubehwe my bank account e kyerɛ sɛ omo de sa sika no ama me
ama me.
and you can combine all those different non-employment income no to
Mm,
show them say ampa so wohwɛ saa me income no over a 12-month period over to
mm,
me who say me 29,000 a year no
mm.
yeah.
Hey, home of financial way ni deɛ ɛyɛ some way lo ayɛ ne sisi ano mehia me ho kafoɔ wotumi ho sɛ me situation nyinaa mehia me ho kafoɔ sɛ ɔba bɛka me ho na mpem bɛyɛ hye kyerɛ sɛ yɛbɛkɔ yɛnim na afei nso no adwuma a meyɛ no matwa me menni any other streams anaasɛ source of income biara bɛka apart from adwuma a meyɛ naa no nanso ɛnso 29,000. Are there any other options a mɛtumi afa so? Any option apart from nea wakeka yi me nso mehia me ho kafo me
Mm.
sika no ɛnso me adwuma a employed adwuma a meyɛ no ɛndu saa menni other means a ɛbɛka ho a ɛbɛtumi ɛdu saa option foforɔ bi wɔ hɔ bi mu anaa.
It's yes, we'll share your immigration rules now, especially for Nkrofua. Let's say to me emiti your financial requirements of 29,000. So over to me actually say we would just some form of disability allowance. Into let's say ebia woje carers disability allowance anaa kwampo sɛ wo na disability na ayɛ into woje sa disability allowance anaasɛ
Mm.
woje PIP, which is the personal independence payment, anaasɛ woje sa injury allowance, anaasɛ woyɛ armed force ni anaasɛ retired soldier anaasɛ yeah, discharge away free and arm anymore. There's also a certain allowance omodema san no through no fault of theirs they've become disabled. Into if you are taking any form of disability and as a injury payments or allowances be there, then you don't have to meet that 29,000 pounds now or more cano.
Okay.
You can show say because of sasikana oje from abino because of your injury and answer because of disability now wanting you are able to show say because of sasikana oje no to me emit maintenance requirements no.
Mm.
And then we also have abia nkrofo through no fault of theirs, they cannot meet the requirements. But ewo omo ne omo kunu anase omo yere ewo ba ana mba ewo UK chrome ha. And this was similar to the case of Lebanon 2017. And not the Supreme Court nankasa and omo share sa case no. At that time, no, na threshold no 18,600. And
Mhm.
at that time, no, na nkurɔfoɔ na wɔwɔ case no because there were different families in the case, they
Mm.
could not meet that threshold and they were seeking redress from government, no, and the government was not providing it, so they had to take the case through to JL and then all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then the
Mm.
Supreme Court gave a judgment in regards to financial requirements now almost edge home office for no edge. And Omoka said when it comes to cases where there are exceptional circumstances, yeah, and there's a home office no to me share other ways and means that to me ɛde saa ɔmo ho kafo abɛka ɔmo nsa nti ebia the person might have credible or reliable sources of income home office for no able to me ahwɛ nti in such exceptional cases no dear ɛsɛ home office no to me ɛhwɛ circumstances no of nipa no na hwɛ other reliable and anaasɛ credible sources of income saa nipa no ebetumi a provide na ama saa nipa no ne kunu anaasɛ ne yere abɛka ne nsa because it's very dire sɛ nipa korɔ no wayɛ biara a ɔbɛtumi ayɛ sɛ ɔbɛtumi anya saa sika no na ɔntumi nya a, then you have to look at those exceptional circumstances. Nti ɛno ɛna home office foɔ no hwɛeɛ a de ɛno ɛbɛkaa yɛ immigration rules no ho. Nti
Mm.
yɛwɔ biribi a yɛfrɛ no Gen 3.1 ɛne Gen 3.2. Nti Gen 3.1 ne sɛ wontumi mmiti saa financial minimum income requirements ne deɛ a
Mhm.
na wodwen sɛ ɛbɛbirikyi wo article 8 right to family life deɛ a
Mhm.
ɛndeɛ sɛ ɔmotumi ɛhwɛ the way a ɔmotumi ɛmfa ɛhaw ɛmbrɛ wo because they say that if it will be unduly harsh for them to refuse the application ne deɛ a ɛndeɛ ɔmo bɛhwɛ wɔ exceptional circumstances nti under Gen 3.2 no the exceptional circumstances will have to be evidenced and then they would see the fact that say no refusal of application no ɛbɛyɛ detrimental to you and I say unduly harsh to you because of the fact that untumi meet that 29,000 pounds no more there, then they will go ahead and then look at those evidence for exceptional circumstances and then obviously say umiti sa requirements ne there na me ama ohukafo abejoin no. It's some of the evidence they are looking for in terms of credible and answer reliable source of income. Number one, ABA sponsor bi anaasɛ third party bi aka sɛ oh mewɔ sika ebia me savings na mewɔ no ɛboro saa 29,000 na ɔmo no nti me a meyɛ sponsor no metro letter aka ho mede me ID bɛka ho mede me bank statements ɛbɛka ho to show say me was saa 29,000 no bro so nti sɛ wo kunu anaasɛ wo yere ba a me sponsor wo till the time a wo kunu anaasɛ wo yere no
Okay.
ɛbɛnya adwuma. Nti that is one source of income they can take into consideration if
Mm.
the third party is willing to provide that.
Mm.
Another credible and also reliable source of income or trust or move to me consider the fact say be a nipa krono or
Mhm.
ba or you're well and able to work into
Mhm.
or ba or
Mm.
be must we say
Mhm.
into be a ne yere na anansa ne kunu na ɔwɔ ha no wedi kan hwehwɛ adwuma na ama no deda.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nti edwumanfoɔ no atwerɛ letter sɛ upon
Mhm.
his arrival no ɔbɛma bɛma no adwuma sei ɔmo bɛtua ne ka this amount of money which is more than the 29,000 pounds na ɔmo rehwehwɛ no.
Mm.
Nti because of the fact sɛ saa edwumanfoɔ no etumi atwerɛ letter sɛ ɔmo ɛbɛma nipa korɔ no saa adwuma wei ne nti they will consider it as credible and reliable. Or it could be say the person who is here, the partner who is here, no, ebia they have savings, cash savings. Um, yeah, shada and cash savings. Same bebree. But when it comes to cash savings under your immigration rules, no, you have to have at least 16,000 and above. Until they are looking to see, say, ABS and Nipacono, back for let's say 2.5 year period there. And they will cash savings, no, so to me calculate it for that 2.5 period na nipa no ebo UK krom ha.
Mm.
Nti let's say oh 16,000, then
Mhm.
you have to multiply that 16,000, I mean divide that 16,000 by the 2.5 years na nipa kono ebeba no, and then
Mm.
multiply it by the 16,000 that you say you're going to have every year.
Mm.
Into if you are looking at the calculation very strictly, then
Mm.
it means the income that you should be getting from your savings and I said well savings na sell oh no, it will be more than 30,000 for that 2.5 year period now,
Mm.
or more cano. And see it's likely that you may not be able to meet that income, but you can combine it with ABA or part-time ejuma oh yeah. Into ABA will part-time ejuma no unya bear 20,000, and then you have cash savings of at least um let's say give and take 16,000 na or more air cano. It means that your income will be at least 36,000 per year because you should be able to show say well cash savings now or no you've had it for at least 6 months before our year application no. Into say ebia woyɛ part-time adwuma now the cash savings ɛka ho a that is also considered to be reliable and credible source of
Mm.
income. Into and also no, they have to consider that and say okay because of sika wei a wogye nti yɛbɛ ma wo kunu no abɛka wo nsa ɛwɔ UK kurom ha. Nti most of the time the Home Office has to consider Gen 3.1 and Gen 3.2 as a result of sa Lebanon case na
Mm.
ɛbaeɛ no. And so once you are able to show say ebia because of me banner mention or no, there's no way I made to me aye juma dodoɔ say enya saa 29,000 no. Nti patcho bebree monhwɛ me situation no na montumi mboa me na me kunu mbɛka me nsa wɔ ha. Ɔba a ebia ɔbɛnya adwuma wei sei nti ɔmo betua ne ka sei anaa koraa mpo sɛ me sika a menya no mesan so wɔ savings, monhwɛ me savings na megye no na momma me ɛmfa me kunu anaasɛ me yere ɛmbɛnka me nsa ɛwɔ UK kurom ha. Nti they have to consider all those uh, likelihoods and as a credible or reliable sources of income wonya no sɛnya at least ɛmbɛyɛ how ɛma wo because sɛ wowɔ ba there's no way I'll wait to me. I hear multiple jobs are wait to me a day as no. It's not worth it. So it's better say wait to me. I explain it now. Share no na wait to me. Ama okunu and asa oyere abaka sa ewo kroma.
Okay. Na kyerɛ sɛ ɛyɛ dan a anidaso wɔ hɔ. Nti no,
Yeah.
wo find yourself in any of these situations a yɛaka no, mma w'aba mu mbu. Sɛ wopɛ sɛ wo ho kafoɔ no bɛka wo ho a, to anamo. Go back to the video. Hwɛ alternatives na Lawyer Eunice aka no nyinaa. Na hwɛ sɛ wobɛnya bi wɔ mu a, na fa to anamo na ɛbɛboa. Lawyer Eunice, ɛbɛda ase yie sɛ woakyekyɛ mu. Sɛ sɛnea ɛteɛ bia financial requirement no deɛ, wobɛtumi ayɛ ho biribi. Na means ne sources a waka no nyinaa no, megye di sɛ by all means, obi bɛfind himself ɛwɔ one situation a ɛbɛtumi ɛde aboa no. Ɔdɔfoɔ no, yɛbɛda mo nyinaa nso ase sɛ mogu so a mohwɛ na moanya mo kyɛfa ɛfiri mu. Wopɛ sɛ wɔkɔfa wo ho kafoɔ ba a, ɛyɛ ana ɛyɛ nigyesɛm sɛ ɔba bɛka wo ho, na mmom sɛ requirement na yɛhwehwɛ no wommitimiti bi a, na ɛyɛ a na ɛha adwen. Na major one a ɛwɔ mu no, ɛne ne ɛnɛ nea yɛadiscuss de ama mo yɛ financial requirement no, ɛne yɛadiscuss no. Mo a moaba efidie no so nyinaa nyame nhyira mo. Mede di kan ma Charles Emery. Ɔse good morning. Manye ɛne BWF Solicitors team. Emery yɛgye wo so papaapa. Yɛnnuaba Sandra nso bɛka good morning to you all. Nti na kyerɛ sɛ dodoɔ no a ɛwɔ ahoma no so nyinaa nkyia kɛseɛ ɛkɔma yɛn ɛfiri yɛnnuaba Sandra. Saa nso na ɔsɛe bo nso. Ɔno nso de bɛtoo hɔ sɛ nea ɔno na obisa ne question. Nti ɔsɛ ɛbo nso wo question no sɛ wotie yɛ a mebɛbisa de ama wo na Lawyer Eunice abɛyi ano de ama wo. Na obisa sɛ ɔsɛ ɛbo nso bisa sɛ but ɔsɛ ɛbo nso just give me a second. Etie for mebie telephone lines no de atom sɛ wopɛ sɛ wofrɛ anaa wopɛ sɛ wo leave message anaa sɛ wopɛ sɛ wogya voice note ɛde ma me a bɔ mmɔden a wobɛtumi agya voice note no ɛwɔ 075 966 20154. wobɛtumi agya voice note no ɛwɔ hɔnom. Mɛbɔ ɛde ama Lawyer Eunice na wayi w'ano fɛfɛɛfɛ. Saa nso na wobɛtumi afrɛ ɛyɛ 0208 123 1016. wobɛtumi afrɛ sisi a na ɛno nso mɛpeke na webisa wo question. Saa nso na wobɛtumi afrɛ 073 9920 8468. ɛno nso so wobɛtumi afrɛ. Na obi di ka afrɛ ma mpeke wotie a wobɛtumi asa afrɛ bio na yɛato. Nti ɔsɛ bo nso wo question no mebisa de ama wo. Osi please can nkurɔfoɔ frɛ na ɛba miss call menim nea nti ɛba miss call no san frɛ biom wofrɛ yɛ a na akate nti try biom. Ɔsɛ bo nso si please can you ask lawyer can time I spent on student dependent visa and time I spend on skilled worker dependent can be combined. I can combine to obtain indefinite leave to remain if my main skilled worker obtain her independent and indefinite. Okay, indefinite.
Yes. And see, in regards to that question, unfortunately, you can only combine it if you are going on a 10-year route. So, for
Mm,
instance, maybe I had no my students. In see,
mhm,
maybe I had no my students, maybe a year, 3 years, and I said maybe a year, 4 years. I feel that my jumping onto the dependent route as a partner of a skilled worker.
mm,
Say, oh, yet so obviously for a 10-year period, then you can combine it to say you are applying for indefinite leave to remain. But say, oh yeah, application not as a partner of a skilled worker, most of the time when you're making the application for a partner of a skilled worker, they have the 5-year period. And so usually you also have to show that you have lived in the UK continuously for that 5-year period with Sawo partner. No. So once your 5 years is over on the partner route and as a dependent, no, then you can make the application, but you cannot combine the students with the partner when you're going for partner routes indefinite. Into if you're going strictly by the partner routes and as a dependent of a skilled worker, then you have to have shown that you have been on that route for the continuous period of 5 years before you can make the application. But so person combine it, yeah, then you have to show a 10-year lawful residence before you can make the application. And say, I hope say I've broken it down for him to understand.
Yes, megye di sɛ otie obenya. Ɔdɔfo a wahoma so, mema wakɔ aba ɛbɛyɛ dwumadie so. Mesrɛ wo ani deɛ mu wokasa firi he yɛnte wo nka.
Yeah, ma me me kasa fe land ya but na mo te say ma.
Adom nko a yɛ ho yɛ.
Good. We the question yet ya me nua ba na ba so fo okuno ba.
Okay.
But we full time and on kwala me no.
Okay.
But the problem here is ni juma no as me hwe the PCC no as annually 26,000.
Okay.
But when you support a government, you try the come on now you try we are chat can identity. So chat can na bumudia a bit more than that. When you say no bit we no kawana. And I see suffice no say na akwa increase say na akwa ukofa sanka wo fu kuna by application fee na tuma say I just so much more na.
Yo, Eunice.
But in regards to income sources, no, unfortunately, benefits which do not relate to disability and as an injury, no, will not be considered. Into general public funds to say ABA, Nipakrono edge child benefits and our child tax credit and as a universal credit, no, and no the omo who no as source of income. Into unfortunately, no, she will not be able to rely on that as a source of income. But when it comes to the fact, say, oh yeah, Juma, the fact that she's able to say, ne Juma no Emma ne 26,000, but because of Nimbanensi, on to mean koye more hours. And no will come under the exceptional circumstances na American wasem under Gen 3.1 Gen 3.2 no. Because on to me, it is our minimum income threshold of 29,000, but oh yeah, Juma, ne Juma no Emma ne 26,000 per annum. But because of Incolano, so on to me a year more hours, then they will consider that and say, okay, because we know that you have other you have income coming from employment and AB and Ipakono Eba Obenya Ejuma say and I said third party be or obey to me a support too. And I crampo say because what savings and I said bibi ewo honinti say omo to me share and no to me Emma wo kafo ever join no work room her. They would definitely look at that.
Consider that. Yo. Home office had the omo dream kwala ho. Nti unkwala isusu na untumi nye more hours just to deprive their looking after no omo be consider me gidi some be consider. Odo for one ma so mpacho me ete onka o ka se free he.
Good morning.
Good
Pacho,
morning.
make a free Liverpool.
Okay.
And I pay the evidence Yama on lawyer Eunice. Now, my question here.
Yeah, Joseph.
Pacho, me application. Na application I may no. Ma overstay me visa na me application. And I make me busa lawyer say. Me her search as a me any application fee almost £3,000 na me piano. Just in case me pia na application na anya successful. Aya almost refunded a bima wana say 3,000 LTN application o man yan to my scanners when you know ashe.
Home office yes it come and sign ba.
In regards to the health surcharge, someone refused to almost be refunded. That's the good thing. And I kind with the previous caller also. The previous caller to be sad about health surcharge or more increase and there be health surcharge, is still £1,035 a year. In say 2.5 years no more than money per krona. I think say it's over £3,200 and
Yes.
in terms of health surcharge when they are making the application for them to enter. So OSHA application fees no mututu just last month. Then you're looking at it was just this month. Say April na yawo. Yeah, so just this month no mutu into so OSHA application fees now almost say it was has been increased to 1,930 something pounds. But we all know, say, when it comes to your entry clearance applications, because a international application, we charge dollars, and there will be bank charges. So just make your mind ready. So we'll be to over £2,000, 100, just so that wouldn't say, who was asking account soon. So you'll be paying over £5,200 in terms of just one application. Yeah.
Asɛm o mpakyɛ wo a mapik no hold on 1 second ma me why and wei ɛwɔ queue mu membɔ wei quickly.
Good morning, Mandy T. Good morning, Lawyer Eunice. Yɛda mase ne adwuma pa mobɔma Ghana community. Na menhyia ma no ne mo kɛse. Wede me question de etia. Pacho we you ni matena ha over 18 years. Manya me settle status. Na bacho na me no obaby ɛwɔ Ghana. Na makɔware na ware before 2020. Makɔ Ghana from that time almost about 5 times. And my ready. Makɔyɛ na customary marriage. So that me yɛ before 2020. Pacho me say me brana so me de ne ba. Na bacho requirement bay and a bit me ama me no my application and the EUSS family permit no document be be here on my side and on document be here on the side na but on the side no say on throw English na fit so TB test no obey na to be say me requirement on the side na be me side no requirement be here na problem is say before you lie and akokora if any say me chat na me chat me course no WhatsApp no na I problem but then we take it just my call from that time ba no ti and a picture be me the account no application is successful but obet me agade me kakra odaroma na anke ebeboa pa
Eunice.
Yes. Also, in second indefinite under the EU settlement scheme. One kasa or your EU national. So I'm assuming say or your Ghana near no your EU ebusini and no ordinya sa indefinite and answer ordinya ne settled status ewo krom ha. Inti say now we are Ghana ni
Samom because also a EU national na waba ha to 18 years ago.
Oh really?
Meba mpacho my yen confused meba.
Okay.
Good morning, Mandy T. Good morning, Lawyer Eunice. Yɛda mase ne adwuma pa mobɔma Ghana community. Na menhyia ma no ne mo kɛse. Wede me question de etia. Pacho we you ni matena ha over 18 years. Manya
Into also ye EU ni. And
Okay.
what for 18 years. When you set
18.
status.
Okay.
Before 2020.
Okay, into so your EU now, what's not Chrome have for that 18-year period and I said 20-year period now. Of course, when it comes to EU appendix EU Nadia, almost say you have to have shown say signing panel before the specified dates. Ye na ye say specified dates no 31st December 2020. Into Abia Okofa Oba no no before 31st December 2020 and see and no way to me address and now you're from family member before that time. And I said nimpa krona waware no ube to me address ware no before 31st December 2020. Say ware no before 31st December 2020 dear. You don't have any financial requirements, there's no English language requirements, there's no accommodation requirements, there's no young kind of saying TB tuberculosis
Just a way they are cocoa cry.
yes, there's almost nothing. All you need to show is relationship, no. And see, so over to me, I just said, more etim. Yes, you talk over the phone, more WhatsApp, video calls, then of course they would consider that. But so worry after the 31st of December 2020, whether you are EU or non-EU national, dear, you definitely need to meet all those requirements, no, for financial requirements, relationship requirements, accommodation requirement, English language, any
Alcohol cry because I know dear or now walk down so I call Ghana 5 times or any adding one kata who I say can say there has been some sort of mingling. So my dear no.
yes.
Into your man no step by step no. Many are bema uja message. When dear we be see nkwana atom fufu mu ana fufu atom kwan very simple. Nielo Eunice kai very simple but open quick pa dia and the bomodia be home on be money tissue at the amount. Why? We hear ma bebre bia and waboboso. You don't need all those things. But video evidence kakra mu honum 5 times. Let's just say, anyhow. Bomodia ko home on application into sisia Ope kra fa ne nkwala ne nyina aka ho na mombra. Why? Very easy to do. Odofo wa ma so ye mre na ekontira. Odofo wa ma so pacho obey me last call. Efra o say na o kasa free.
Yeah, by friend Nana, if you what,
Okay.
imagine what.
Kafra, why?
Yes. Yeah, I think na me pese lawyer, maybe some normal means you more kakra concerning me were 2.5 years. Na me feel to call 5-year route. Na me pese bisa lawyer, se me speak for that 5-year route no so. Me ko 2.5 million, and now say 5 years. No mo de be ma me na bo.
I think so. This question it go for bebree ewo omadwen efa ho, and like you're asking, say oh call 5-year route no so omo be ma 5 years straight, and that's omo be ma 2.5. Unfortunately, omo ma 5 years straight. They will not give you 5 years straight away. Instead, say oh call 5-year route no so when they say 10-year routes no any 5-year routes no, there are two different routes. It is a kwan a wo fa so. Yes, if I left now I for left. Yes, if I right now I for right. So na first unam left road no so dear. And dear sisi a waka tell say, oh, okay, but fa wonsa right. Into because sisi a wadane wo ho a wabes fa wonsa right no dear. Almost say nam so 5 years ansana Yamal indefinite leave to remain. Into I don't know, son, oh, your application to switch to the 5-year router. Almost switch out to the 5-year router. Obey 2.5 ni mienu. And sana wait to me, I indefinite no on the 5-year route. Into start 2.5 now we on the 10-year route no. Ashe. But 2.5 mienu a why 5 years route no so no. Obey to me, no. I indefinite leave to remain application.
Okay, yanso ye dash papa. So I share program ne de.
Ma share it.
Yo, la Eunice.
Ina me
Ye
nya be gina so din.
mate. Emre ne ko nanso crofo gina so pa. Nti me pick last one na ye nko. But wa ma pick o call no Mr. Ye fro se na o kasa free.
Hello, the friend Joe, Catcher Free Wembley.
Okay, Joe you.
Pacho, Eunice me chiao. The question is about my sister and over UK or the visitors vista nearby like 2 years ago. But na Nina settled Eunice settled into a dependency man. Almost with me for with you soon say dependency or show you enough. Almost per 6 months, and she's gone back to give them bra or Ghana or school and in anano ATS school fees now. But still, I'm on fair way. It's a court. Unfortunately, 2 years in last month, and in anani. Then person that say Okokota on gun chums and in an last month, yana now will it endure the application and only the on to me improve it or show dependency. The question on.
Oh no.
I say obiewu onye di line is wait I mean give him out. Then now back.
When it comes to things like this, it's unfortunate because obi a woda no so nya nkrata na nipa kono efrim say.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for nipa kono loss. But in terms of immigration, dear, so Okokota, they expect say both any EU national no will be there because they want to be able to see how credible and I said nukrena a woman no then. Into they will ask both any EU national no as ABI say now the man now take Ghana no now I now they call now they will want to see the EU national. So unfortunately, even with our some of our cases, say then they will ask for you to prove the answer wamba. Obviously, if you are not able to give good reason, the answer wamba, it will go against you. And see, unfortunately, so to make a check court say with free. Normal evidence say no with
Yes.
free, unfortunately, just I
Yeah.
mean. a few weeks ago and not offering more. And say, unfortunately, this is what has happened. Looking at the courts, if the person is no longer able to show, because I'm sure say this was going to be her first 5 years. Yes. Yes. If this was going to be her first 5 years, or date snack room had, yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing the courts can do. But if it was, for instance, with Tumiachre, say, or 5 years residence, and I say, or settled status, I mean, pre-settled status, which is limited leave to remain. If you are not what limited leave to remain, needed that. After no budget settled status, then they could have made a decision probably in her favor. But say after no all budget limited leave to remain, and I say pre-settled, dear. Unfortunately, court no end to me and yeshwe and buana.
Hey, then and no son, never man akufia and I said,
So, but so it's like 2 years now. He was dependent on it, and the case is by when she was dependent on her. To me, argue say,
Okay.
as a some of the man because not on or your dependent. Into so cut on kufia. Ebe na amwa. Meanwhile,
So if she's able to, usually no, like I said, if she was able to show, say, if your mama no pre-settled status and as a limited leave, and as a mama the residence card did that dear, then they will be able to do something about it. Pachawati say they will be able to make a decision in her favor. But wait there, afe and all badges pre-settled and as a limited leave to remain. Unfortunately, she might not be able to convince the court say she was already dependent because there's nothing from the EU national unless you are saying say EU national because first time no your application you refuse your court and then the EU national was able to give evidence or sign court biome and so because of the fact that afena mamine no consider the evidence that was given previously and then they should look at the fact that she's now gone and so Mamen Way has been dependent on her for the past 2 years and she's now yes obviously under appendix EU you can retain your rights if the EU national has passed away but wait there she hasn't been able to show dependency before in Afena or said now she was a dependent and it puts her in a dicey situation.
I can say me mom na I can say there should be a way but me man na ba.
Ampa ose oba me da se ose why me da se yemre ya be nti mema we free so na ye de adwumade na ba wie ye bo moda na to na mo na akobie bie nyoma so yi e de ma lawyers no mo no be hu kwan on be fa so nsem say no untumi nya solution ni nyina e wo 5 minutes conversation with the lawyer just go and see them me fa course be bio me nua ba lawyer ani akofio e wo honum a me invite no for the English version of our program no and to bia emma etiefo.
Yes, good morning, Lady Maniati, Lawyer Eunice, and all our viewers and listeners. Happy Friday to you all. So, the topic for today was can I bring my spouse to the UK if my income is below the financial threshold? So, in April last year, the financial threshold was changed or increased from £18,600 to £29. And the reason why that was made is for the sake of immigration control to basically, I guess, prevent people from bringing too many spouses into the UK. So in terms of the sources of income that you can rely on, we went through them and there are a few. So the first one is employment. So if the sponsor here in the UK, the spouse here in the UK is in employment, they can rely on the money that they receive from their employment. So in that case, they would be able to provide their pay slips to show how much they earn and their bank statements as well to show that the money enters into their account. And if that person also has like a letter of employment or a contract, they can rely on that as well to show that they meet the £29,000. Or even if the person has income from non-employment, they can rely on that too. So for example, if they have any type of investment, or if they have money in their bank, and they, for example, an ISA account, or they receive any type of shares, like they have shares, let's say, in a company, and they receive dividends, they can rely on that too. Or even if the person is a owner, a landlord, and they are letting out a property to people and they receive rent, they can rely on the rent to meet the financial requirement. And then there's also self-employment. So if someone is working for themselves, they can stand on that as well. Or even if the person has cash savings, when it comes to cash savings, the person has to make sure that it's at least £16,000 or more. Or lastly, another source of income is pension. So if the spouse here in the UK no longer works, but they receive occupational pension or private pension, they can potentially rely on that. So when it comes to proving your income, normally, let's say the person here in the UK is in employment, they would have to have worked with a company for at least 6 months, so that they're able to provide 6 months worth of pay slips. However, if the person has worked with a company for less than 6 months, so let's say we're in April and the person started working with the company in January this year, in that case, the person can rely on their previous employment if they were working. But in that case, they would have to provide 12 months of pay slips for their previous employment, and then they would have to provide pay slips as well for their current employment. And we also looked at the types of sources of incomes that you can combine and which you can't combine. So when it comes to self-employment, you cannot combine that with any other source of income. So if you're self-employed, you have to basically your income for your self-employment has to be at least 29,000 so that you can bring your spouse into the UK. But if you are working, you are employed, you're an employee, in that case, even if your earnings from your job is less than 29,000, you can still combine it with money that you receive from non-employment. So for example, as I said, if you are a landlord and you rent out property and you receive money, you can combine that with the money that you receive from employment. Or even if you are on maternity leave, or you have savings, you can combine all of that with the money that you receive from your employment. So if, let's say, you are in employment and you earn 26,000 and you are able to combine it with the other sources of income and it reaches up to 29,000, then that is no problem. We then also looked at the cases in which people do not have to meet the threshold. So if you are receiving any type of disability allowances or injury allowances, you do not necessarily have to meet the £29,000. So for example, if you were in the army at some point and you obtained an injury and you receive allowances, then you don't have to meet the threshold. Or even if you have a disability and you receive personal independence payment, or you receive carers disability allowance, then you wouldn't have to meet the threshold. And lastly, if there are exceptional circumstances in your case, then the Home Office is required to basically look at other credible sources of income that you may have. And this is in accordance with a case known as Lebanon. So if in that case, let's say you have a third party available who is happy to step in the gap and say that although you do not meet the £29,000, they're happy to sponsor you or help you out with your application, or help you once your spouse is here in the UK. In that case, the Home Office might have to consider that, depending on if you're able to prove that there would be unduly harsh consequences on you if your application were to be refused, or if you can prove that if your application is refused, it would have an a negative impact on your Article 8 rights to family life. So that's just a quick summary for today. I hope this helps someone. Thank you very much.
Thank you to dear sister Annie. Yɛbɛda ase papaapa. Etiefoɔ no ahwɛfoɔ ɛm sɛ ha na dwumadi yɛde bɛba awie. Eunice, ɛdɛn na wode bɛgya yɛ quick one na yɛndwane nkɔ. Nyame yɛ adom ɔkyena the community and the law na ɛbɛba so na yɛwɔ beautiful topic for you. Afei nso BWF Solicitors like we all know wohwehwɛ wɔn akyiri akwan a wokɔ Seven Sisters Station no hɔ anaa Anna House ɛwɔ hɔ. Wode ɔka sɛ bisa obiara nam wo lɔre kwan so no nyinaa sɛ wopɛ BWF Solicitors a wɔbɛkyerɛ yɛ 214 to 218 Tottenham High Road ne so. Lawyer Eunice, mpatwɛ ɛdɛn na wode gyaeɛ?
Pacho, I believe say when it comes to Nibakona offer last no. Now or say the lady was able to make an application and they refused it, and then 6 months evidence was required again. Almost it to me provided. So it will be good to see what evidence that they have and
Okay.
evidence are on courts, no, because the hearing was one date no crown. But if the hearing is soon, I would like to see what evidence are on courts, no, because obviously based on the evidence that they've given to the courts will make their decision based on that. And I don't know if Omo or legal representatives, so Omo will be there, then that's fine. If they don't, then obviously that will also suffice in terms of them getting the advice from sa legal representative. Into yes, yeah, no. In regards to yeah topic, and then no, I know that many of you may be in that situation, and it might be that because of the situation into there's no way over to me in yasa 29,000 men money in year say banner say I critical because of exceptional circumstance na woman into to me in yasa sikana and to me ashre abwao. There will be issues like that, and I know say of course as much as possible no nkurɔfoɔ ɛbɛtumi ayɛ ho biribi na ɔmo ho kafoɔ abɛjoin wɔ mo ɛwɔ UK kurom ha. And mo enjoy more rest of the weekend, and I hope say that's in there mo bɛsan ajoin yɛn bio.
Sa. Lawyer Eunice, yɛn nso yɛda ase papaapa. Etiefoɔ aha na dwumadie no bɛma yɛn ho kwan na yɛde aba awie. Nti no yɛbɛda mo nyinaa ase sɛ mo baa so fɛfɛɛfɛ ma na ayɛ fɛ. Ɔkyena monhwɛ yɛn anim wɔ community and the law. Until then no, nea din ara ne Manyeti. Wofrɛ hyɛn baabi a wofrɛ Manyeti a megye wo so. Nyame nka yɛn ho na ɔma yɛn good, happy, beautiful weekend. Enjoy yourself. Obiara, bye-bye.
Based in London, we are a dynamic award-winning firm specialising in a range of legal services. Welcome to BWF Solicitors, a trusted and experienced law firm specialising in immigration and nationality, appeals and judicial review, dispute resolution, family and matrimonial, and other family law disputes with international context. These include matters such as private child arrangement orders, contestant and uncontested divorce, non-molestation for domestic violence, and financial remedy. Our childcare and family team appreciate the issues facing you at such a difficult time. Our advice is delivered in a confidential and sensitive manner. Meet Bernard Owusu, our esteemed senior partner, with over 32 years of experience and known for his expertise and dedication to serving our clients and the community. BWF Solicitors stands for integrity, respect, excellence, teamwork, diversity, inclusion, and service to the community. We provide tailored assistance specific to your case. At BWF Solicitors, every day is filled with dedication, creativity, and a commitment to finding the best solutions for our clients. Our team at BWF Solicitors is ready to assist you with all your legal needs. You can find us at the 4th floor, Anna House, 214 to 218 High Road, Seven Sisters, London, N15 4NP. Our main office line is 0208 493 7340, or our emergency line is 07712 761 884.